What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dojo. I am Carmen. We're joined with Sean and Nothmar. We've got a lot to cover in 1 hour's time. The last 2 weeks have been absolutely chaotic. So I guess before we talk about AF15, because that's kind of been the I think the primary focus of the last 2 weeks, we've got a couple other things that have happened since we've been together. We've got the decon drops and those independent artist stuff. We've got the Buzz Lightyear drop. We've got the Squirrel Girl drop. So I guess the first thing I will ask you about, Sean, anything about any of the new drops that you noticed, liked, or didn't like besides AF15?
I mean, I like when they drop, like first appearance characters, like Gambit, stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if I was on the last show you guys had or not. But since the last time I was on here, I think there was like Gambit and what other first appearance ones have come out recently?
So we've got after Gambit, there was Professor Hulk, and then Groot are the only, aside from AF15. We've got Groot, Professor Hulk, and then there was that unbeatable Squirrel Girl drop. And then tomorrow we've got like the first appearance of 10,000 BC Avengers or something along.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, I'll just buy one copy of stuff like Professor Hulk and the first 1 million BC Avengers. But like stuff like Gambit and Groot, those are things like that I go for is books and physical that I can't afford in 9.8. I love to stack in VV because it gives you a secondary chance to see if you can recreate history,
Now,
and I think it will. I think a lot of that stuff will. So,
did you stack Groot?
As much as I could. I think I have like 10 of them or something like that. I bought 4 off drop and I got an ultra rare on drop, so I was pretty happy with that.
Nice. Nothmar, what about you? Any new comic stacking?
I have not done any new comic stacking. I did buy just one Unbeatable Squirrel Girl for the collection, so I just wanted to read that. I did buy the Professor Hulk, just one, no stacking. I've been doing more physicals lately, so but it's actually good. Now I'm looking, because usually when Marvel releases some of these stuff, it's usually tied to something they're gonna drop in either a TV or movie. So I'm excited about Squirrel Girl because I have the first appearance in physical form, like I have a few of them. So I'm excited that maybe she might show up in some of the TV shows or coming up from Disney Plus.
Yeah, and something that we talked about before the show started that I thought was interesting is it does seem like, and I think, Sean, you'll probably agree with this because you made mention of this in regards to David Yu's position anyway. It does seem like they are dropping books that they think people would be interested in reading, aside from like the collector, aside from like the investment positions. If you get a copy of Tales to Astonish Groot, now of course that was because the mini series did drop on Disney Plus, but the likelihood of you actually reading your hard copy of Tales to Astonish 13 is pretty slim, mainly because it's probably so beat up that you don't want to open it up. Or it's probably slabbed. So I think they might be taking stock of that and giving us things that genuinely we may want to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything seems to either be connected to a pre-marketing of something that's coming out for Disney, Marvel, or things that, like you said, things that are so scarce in physical. Like that first appearance of Groot, that's a scarce book. Like that's a hard book to get in a good grade, almost impossible. So like David Yu as a collector is probably like, that's probably a cool thing to release. And Marvel, knowing that they had 5 Groot episodes come out like the same day they released that VV thing, they had a Groot statue and the Groot comic, and those 5 shorts on Disney Plus came out. All that stuff came out the same week.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it's kind of just like they have to have meetings. Like they have to be talking about what they're releasing, and if David Yu feels like it's a good idea to release something akin to that on the platform, and Marvel probably forces it. They're probably like, you have to release this on the platform as part of our deal.
Right. That's a great point. Now, the comics really, it depends on, which one. I mean, Tales to Astonish 13, that group book, is essentially at drop price right now. If you can get it for $7 or maybe $7.10 or $7.15, if you wanted it, which is pretty good. The squirrel, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl and the Professor Hulk are way down. I think last time I checked, they were in like the twos, maybe even like high dollar amounts. And then Uncanny X-Men 266 is interesting. It like flirts with the $5 mark, which is, I'm surprised it's as low as it is because it's a 20,000 mint book. And that is something I'm kind of taking stock in. I'm also a little more strategic with when I'm gonna buy it if I decide to buy it, because I'll see like 15,000 mint, and normally in my brain it's 50% mark when we're dealing with a 30,000 mint. But when I see the 15,000 now, I kind of have a moment of pause because it's not as rare as I thought it was.
Yeah, and I think these are opportunities, right? Because like we know the comic book collectors in the community like us, we know if we would stack, these are the ones that we would stack, right? The 266, that's on my list. Maybe I'll do it later once I get motivated and it hits a threshold like around $4 or whatever, then I'll buy 10, 20, so that one, no problem, I'll stack. But the Marvel Annual Age, I wouldn't touch that. Incredible Hulk, maybe if it's cheap, like $2-3, maybe I'll get like 10 of them. And the Astonishing Groot, like I did have Tales to Astonish. I did have a second print, which I did not make a profit on. I had that for a long time. So the first print is the one that is to get. So I did get a regular copy. But I think if that dips down to 5 and under, then I will consider stacking it. Maybe get like 10, 20 copies.
Right now, transitioning over to the collectibles, we've seen a Buzz Lightyear drop. Actually, we've seen a Boba Fett drop, we've seen a Buzz Lightyear drop, and we've seen an I Am Groot drop. Boba Fett, the UR is still pretty low. Nothmar, I know you said you'll entertain buying it when it hits like 60 for the UR. It's dropped as far back as 175. It's gone as high as like 280. Well, I think it was high. I think it was as high as like 4, but then came like way back down. I don't know if that's gonna find a home in like the 500 or 600s. I look at Vader, I look at Superman, I look at those big tier characters, and I'm still waiting to see what happens to Boba Fett. I think if anybody's looking for an animated UR that doesn't have one, it's probably one of the best buys as far as animated URs are concerned, because it's so cheap.
I mean that's the only thing that I wouldn't invest in it, but if I would buy one just because it's cool. So if it gets to I don't know, a little bit on low hundreds, I would consider getting one just so I can show it off. I have not showed off my Silver Surfer, which I bought from the last show too, so I might do that later. So if this one dips, I would want to get one so I can show it off, definitely.
Nice. Now the Buzz Lightyear, it seems to be really struggling. Let's see. It is still not sold out. So as it stands right now, you can try and roll the dice to try and get an ultra rare get an ultra rare Buzz Lightyear. And if I'm checking, let's see how many have been delivered. I can't see it on my desktop. That information. Oh my gosh. So there are still 5,791 commons left of 8,700 commons. So it looks like not many people have even attempted to get this Buzz Lightyear. I'm curious to see if it's because it's not Buzz.
Yeah, I think it's nostalgia based. I think with collectibles, that's one of the times where I think they missed the mark. Whoever was pushing that, which was probably obviously Disney wanting to sell the modern era of Toy Story stuff. But like the reality is that people like that because of Tim Allen. Like they like those characters because of the voice actors, not because of the character themselves. They liked that one of the greatest comedians of all time was involved with it. So yeah. I think that's a feeling
a lot of. I'm sorry. I have a feeling because a lot of the other similar Toy Story type collectibles aren't doing that well either. So maybe that's another reason. So like Woody, right? Like we were hoping that would pick up. It's never picked up. So So I think along those lines, those toy NFTs are not getting any heat.
Like imagine if they had for like the rarest version of whatever, like say like the Woody had a voice and it had the main voice attached to it, and Buzz had Tim Allen's voice attached to it. I mean, both actors are huge actors. But then again, now we're going to territory. You got to pay actors for their likeness for Vivi. So like that would be complicated. So I can see why they don't want to do that.
Right. Unless Disney has one of those contracts that they signed back in the day where they were like, we own every,
which is possible.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a really cool airdrop, right? Like, let's just, and I don't even know if this is the case. I don't know if this can even happen, but you know, if you had all the Pixar set, you would get airdropped an animated Buzz. Like Tim, that would be something that would be super cool. But you know, that's super speculative, and there's no real reason to believe that they would ever do that. The last figure, I Am Groot. This is one of those things where, you know, there aren't many of them. There's 3,600 of them. They dropped at 50, but they're still floating at around 50. I think you can buy one right now for like, it was as low as 45 maybe. I don't think it's crossed back over that 50 threshold, which I think at least forces us to consider the reality of mints not being everything, right? Just because there's only 3,600, that doesn't necessarily mean that the price is going to be insane, right?
Like I 100% agree. Like think of an AF-15. If that had a 60K minting, I have no doubt it would still be well over $100. Like it would still be several $100s for an AF-15, no matter how many of those things they minted.
Right.
I just don't think it matters sometimes.
It's not a first appearance too, right? So since even the first appearance, I would have to check if the first appearance isn't hot, then these additional ones shouldn't be hot as well. Yeah, the sell price at $50. Yeah, I mean that's still overpriced. They should definitely consider lowering it, but you know it is what it is. I understand it's a business, so they gotta sell it based on.
Did you guys hear that interview that Chavez had where David Yu hopped in? It was one of those like marathon interviews.
I heard about it.
No.
David Yu was talking about how he gets contacted pretty regularly. And this was live, so it wasn't like edited in or nothing. He gets contacted pretty regularly by hedge funds and big fund managers and like multi-million-dollar collectors that are like well known. And almost all of them are asking when they can confirm their business's identity and when they can start buying for a fund. And like they're showing huge interest and wanting to purchase massive amounts or specific mints or like specific things on the platform. So like I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Like
my account is available if anybody's interested.
Yeah, exactly. Just send him Noth's way. He's got plenty of stuff.
But we're not allowed to sell accounts, so we have to make some sort of deal and get Viv to approve it.
And that's a lot of, I think, why you haven't seen big industry stuff get involved yet, because there's still so many restrictions and the platform is still so rough. Like I mean, there's independent developers that have better websites than Vivi. And I'm not like talking crap on Vivi, but I'm just saying that there are guys out there that have much better skill apparently than what they're working with at the development stage. And I know they're just a startup. It's not like they can go hire like a 250K designer and be like, I need you to kick ass immediately. Like,
yeah, they've got mouths to feed that they're already sort of taken care of. That makes sense. Now, so I guess speaking of developers and designers, the last thing I just want to address is the decon drops. I don't think any of them, I haven't checked directly, but as far as I can tell, not many of them are really hanging above list price. I guess the ultra rare McPherson is at 115. That's the floor price. It dropped for 45. But it looks like everything else is struggling a bit. I don't know what that says to new artists. I don't know what kind of message it sends to collectors. What are your guys' opinions on it?
They all sold out, right?
They all did sell out instantly, and the minting is very, very low for I think everything.
I think that sends positive signals to the artists because they don't. I mean, the secondary market matters. That's like a cherry on top. But like, if you like make 100 prints and then you sell 100 prints, they're for sure going to want to work with you again because you sold all their prints. So like, I don't think they really care. I don't think they give a shit about the secondary.
Yeah, the most.
Well, but they probably get a kickback though, right? On
They
the
do,
secondary.
but I imagine it's such a smaller amount of money versus what they make initially. You know what I mean? Except over time, obviously, if you have a popular product, then that's going to obviously royalties always outpace initial payment, but that's assuming that your shit's going to be spicy.
No, I agree. I think the original artists are happy they sold out, so which is good. But I am surprised that some of these, like that elephant Sket one, is like selling at like 1/3 the list price. So like it's just it's concerning because in the future people will take that into account. How come the mint is so low? It's like 1,000. How is that not like, I don't know, double or triple the list price, right? So people are gonna think twice in the future about buying them because they're not selling. If a lot of these people are flippers, then they would think twice about selling it, right? If I'm a collector, hey, whatever, it's cool.
And on the platform,
I'm happy we can get these now for $20. I might get one of these colorful ones, so.
And it's on a platform where Marvel consistently sells items between 20 and 60K minting and sells out 99.99% of the time with very few exceptions. So it probably makes it hard for the indie artists almost right now on the platform the way it is right now, because if somebody comes in on their first day and say that they like indie art, but then they come across a ton of Marvel stuff, chances are, even if they are an indie art collector of some kind, they're going to buy some Marvel stuff because everybody's noticed it retains value better. Like from the highs like of the market in January to like what the things are at now, some of the indie art stuff's down like 30x. Like some of it's down like a scary amount where it's like if you put $1 in, that dollar is worth like 5 cents now or like 3 cents. So the reality is really steep on some of the indie stuff because we just don't have the platform for it yet. I mean, Marvel stuff first.
It's just shocking the prices that they were probably thinking, why did you just sell 1,266 of this Love Space Gives and not sell like 5,000 or more, and they could have made a killing. So I don't know what they were thinking. Were they thinking that, hey, they wanted to make it instantly collectible because it's rare? That could have been it. So they could have made a lot of money, right? Why didn't they make 5,000 at least, right? Why 1,266 only? So
like I'm looking at the secret rare of the elephant, and there were only 555 of them.
Wow.
The drop,
drop
price super low. The drop price was 77, and right now the floor price is 109.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, like if this happened, they'll probably be talking internally and say, "Hey, dude, we're selling out. The prices secondary market doesn't matter. It still didn't pick up. Next time, just keep selling 5,000 or more, 10,000, dude. Make a lot of money in the first place, So because you're not gonna, they don't go up in value in the secondary market anyway. You might as well get your big bucks in the first sale.
Now, I will say I don't know anything about these artists, and I'm not in these subgroups, right? I don't operate in these subcultures. So the only thing that I could possibly think of is that if I'm this artist, if I'm Sket, the person that designs these elephants, maybe they are thinking the long game in regards to what their plan is on the 10th drop. And
what's possible, I'm thinking now, yes, what's possible is they get a bigger kickback in the secondary market.
You know what I mean?
That's the only reason, right? Like, hey, let's sell only 1,000, but then you get, normally they probably give Marvel, 5-10%? They said you can get 50% on every sale in the secondary marketplace, so you can make a lot more money, recurring revenue, maybe something like that, right?
Yeah, and then they can, if I would say the Gondek. What'd you say?
I bet you that's it. They give him a kickback.
It's got to be something like that. And then if you're Gondek, we've seen that he does take care of his fans, and he does it almost secretly, right? Like by the time he announced the airdrop, he was like, well, that picture was taken 3 weeks ago.
That was fast, because I was checking Gondek like almost every other day, and then when he posted it, it was like in that in between day. So by the time I saw it, he already finished the raffle. I was like, oh wow, that was fast.
Yes.
That's the only thing that will support indie art on the platform is if it imitates reward. Like there has to be something beyond just holding it, because as of right now, you can't even post the indie art to your social feeds. You can't even share your gallery to social feeds. I mean, the reality of indie artwork is to like brag and to own it and to support the artist. And like if you can't do any of those things and you're getting nothing back beyond just having it in an app, I mean, it's gonna be very hard to kickstart indie artwork, which I know this is just now. Later on, all these things are gonna be a reality. Everything I just talked about, all that stuff's gonna happen. Like for sure, they're gonna for sure. All the indie artists will be doing airdrops. All of them are gonna have a long-term roadmap. They wouldn't be on VB if they didn't.
Well, question also though, since they're decon, was there physical counterparts to all of these like NFTs?
I don't know.
It depends. Like Volterra last year, Volterra always has, or
Volterra had a physical, right?
Yeah, I think it's had 2 or 3 different physicals now.
So that would be interesting if this was just to get them visibility. I mean, there was some drama in the Vive group about like not talking trash about these indie drops, right? But like other than that, I mean, I didn't hear too much about them. Otherwise, I didn't see or hear about people talking about it in the comic book groups. You know, I never saw anybody else talk about it.
Now, okay, let's transition to the big one. AF-15 gets dropped. It was a $20 drop cost. I don't think anybody even hesitated to pull the trigger at $20, which I'm sure sends messages to Marvel about Hulk 181 and ASM 129 and ASM 300, like all those big ones, especially the Spider-Man IP. I presume it's now they're like, wait a minute, everybody was willing to spend $20. It sold out instantly. Now let's go $20 on any big ASM IP.
Well, what's safer, charging them $20 a pop at 10K mints to sell out, or having 70K minting for a big Spider-Man key, which has happened, and then they sell for nothing in the aftermarket? So like they almost have found like a new little sneaky thing that they're doing that worked really good. Like look at the Star Wars comic drop and look at the Spider-Man comic drop. AF-15, both of them tremendously expensive versus the history of VB's charging, and both of them have generated probably unmatched secondary fees in a short amount of time. That Star Wars 1 book was insane, the amount of secondary it generated. AF-15, same thing. There was guys buying 40K or $40,000 AF-15s, like specific mints. I mean, 40K for an NFT that was $20. I mean, that's like some Bored Ape Yacht Club shit.
Yeah, I think it definitely set a new precedent for how we might see things operate. Now the price as it stands, the floor is $789. I think it initially dropped some in the hundreds, and then like I think for those, it's one of those. If you tried to, I don't even know, getting the marketplace listing of a $150, $175, $200, $250 listing is probably just as hard as getting the actual drop, because as soon as they were being listed, people were scooping them up. It rode, I think it approached its highest at like 860 like over the weekend. It went back down today as low as 700. Now it's in the mid sevens. Where do we see this going in the next couple of weeks? Nothmar, what do you think?
I think because there's a lot more, it's more speculation versus collecting. So I think it can go over 1K in a few weeks, because I think a lot of people are still pumping it. I see a lot of people buying it in stacks, buying a lot of stacking up on this comic book. Even though it's so high, they'll still buy it. Everybody wants one. So I think, from speculation or high spec book, this is like the top, right? What else can beat AF-15 other than MC1 and FF1? I think those are the other two, but those are in the dumps and they have higher mints, right? So this is lower mint, and this is the most visible well-known comic book grail that everybody knows, right? So
now, do you think if it goes above 1K, do you think we eventually see a crash and it comes back down to 500 or
it
so?
can crash at any time, like any speculation where there's mostly pumping and not as much collecting. It can drop at any time, and then it can go up again at any time, right? It's gonna be volatile because everybody's gonna start saying, "Oh shoot, it's crashing! I got like 20 copies. Let me start dumping before it goes back to 100." And then everybody buys it again, and then it's gonna drop, and then again people stock again. It's gonna go up. It's just that's how it's gonna be because this is a very popular comic book, right? So it's got a lot of people who are gonna invest in it or gonna collect it. So it's gonna hit probably both both types of people who are trying to buy into it.
It's definitely imitating like how Walt moved, like where people thought like right after drop, they're like, oh man, this is as high it can go. But then it went down a little bit and then it went way up.
Yep.
Because
Nobody believed it. I did a poll and people were making fun when I said, hey, it could go down under 10, 5K. They said there's no way it would even go under 30K, 20K, 15K,
Yep.
dude.
And opposite of that, when it first came out, no one said it could go above 5 or 10K. And then it ran up to 45K, even though a lot of that was botting. But the reality is there was still individuals that weren't bots that bought them above 40K.
That's
true.
that.
I mean, I do believe there was so much money and pumping going on there for that one that I thought that it definitely will go much, much higher.
And that's the same. I think AF-15 is getting treated like a VV Grail, like out the gate. And I think people don't want to miss like they missed on Walt. So you're seeing people, I know multiple people, probably a dozen, just myself on VV, that liquidated a lot of stuff to buy AF-15s. And they made a lot of poor choices, in my opinion. And I would not have done it, but they did it anyways. They did it super fast and super excitedly. Like,
I'm one of the things that I'm right now, I'm waiting for it to dip. I have like 550 gems.
I buy one at 500.
Locked and loaded. And I've just been like gleaning the mints of and like a bunch of stuff that I don't really want that I can kind of live without. I've been sort of staring at and being like, I should probably sell this. Like this was my go-to. But the real question is, do I had mentioned this to Nothmar. Part of me just wants to pull the trigger and just go out of pocket the $200 difference and grab one at $750, $780. But those swings get kind of wild.
Grails are dangerous.
Very dangerous.
You think just buying comics is dangerous, or buying physical comics or stocks or bonds are dangerous? Buy speculative art. Like that's a good way to really get your heart pumping. Like,
and then my worry is if we, there's so much buzz. I think every day, if you're on any of these VV groups, someone says something about Pokemon or someone says something about like, what was the other one that we were talking about the other day? I can't even remember, but there's all this IP that exists. I'm going to say this from just personally, my own ignorance speaks to this. I look at AF-15 and my brain is like, there's nothing bigger than AF-15.
Let me stop you just for 1 second. There's individual Pokemon cards that sell for $10 million.
So,
just so you know.
So that's what scares me about the AF-15 right now. Because if this AF-15 pumps to 1,000 and the people that are holding these AF-15s have deep pockets, and then there's a Pokemon announcement or whatever, insert any other IP that in other communities is larger than AF-15, and people are just speculative. Let's say I buy AF-15 at 1,500 because at 1,000 because everyone thinks it's the biggest, it's the Grail. People can just pivot to this next Grail and unload, and now all of a sudden this AF-15 that was at 1,000 is now down to 400 because people just rolled into the next thing.
It can happen, dude. It happened with MC1. It happened with FM1. It happened, right? So it is possible. But it is possible for it to also blow up. Like if it is
the Grail of Marvel. I mean, that we can say for sure. Like bar Pokemon, the biggest IP on the planet, coming onto the platform. No amount of Gokus or Yu Yu Hakushos or Ichigo from Bleach. None of that shit's gonna touch Spider-Man, really. I mean, some people will sell, but the majority of people with money and common sense will understand that Goku is below Spider-Man on a world scale.
Right.
But now if they released a gamified card game on Vivi, which is easy to do through IMX because they have shit like that, goddamn. Like if they released an imitation of these $1 million cards that exist on Vivi with like a low mint of like 1,000 copies, you will see people make the most insane decisions you've ever seen in your life. I promise you, I would bet my whole life on it. Like you will see people put 100K into the app just to buy a freaking fake Pokemon card.
And that's what's wild, right?
Digital ownership. It's not fake. It's just different.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Go ahead. Sorry, Nothmar.
Yeah, I did track a few sales lately just to get the hang of it of Pokemon cards, and I was shocked at some of the sales price. A few thousand.
Way up there.
I was like, oh man.
I'm talking like multi-millionaires buy Pokemon cards.
Yep, crazy.
And what's even crazier is like Vivi doesn't actually have to release any game if they don't want. They can just provide the access to some of the things in the game by way of the items that they're dropping. That's how they can provide gamified utility. And if a virtual digital Pokemon card game comes out that just decides, hey, listen, you play the game, like you need to sync your Vivi account to the card platform, to the card game.
Especially if it was on IMX. That'd be really easy to do.
Right. Then all you do every time you buy something, it updates your account on the platform.
Yep.
And now you have access to those cards. And I think people will start to get wild.
You has said multiple times, he's like, I know a lot of people don't believe it. He's like, but we do want an interoperable platform. Like, it's a lot of people think that everyth's gonna be trapped on Vivi forever. It's not gonna happen.
Well, that's probably the way to go too. Like instead of, because they're not in the game building business, right? I don't think they have the expertise there. But if they partner with Microsoft or these like gaming platforms, and then make a deal that if you sync your account here, then you get X amount of whatever those
Niantic or whatever, that company that works with Pokemon, they definitely do it. They
probably
already are
for Pokemon, but
like if Star Wars releases a Knights of the Republic game and you just sync your Vivi account and now you have access to all of the lightsabers or whatever, those are the things that I think about when I think about the Pokemon entrance onto the Vivi platform and the card game element. So all of those things can send the Amazing Fantasy 15 kind of off tilt. I guess much in the same way that we thought that the Todd collectible was the end all be all period. And then, Walt came, and then now AF-15 shows up, and it does send these things in weird places. Vader, that animated Vader is trending roughly neck and neck with Todd. Right? So, when things pump, I'm curious to see where people start to move their money as these like pop culture Goliaths start to compete for the money that's on the table, right? Is it Vader? Is it Todd? Is it AF-15?
And that's exactly the big point, right? And that happens not just there. It happens with crypto. It happens with stocks. So as soon as the next hot big thing is, people liquidate and then they go to the next hottest one. So anything that's like way over, like, I don't know, a few $100 or $1,000 gems, I'd be careful. It can drop at any time because, the next big thing everybody will liquidate and go to the next big thing, right?
Yeah. And we're talking about AF-15 and it just occurred to me that, there is that Amazing Spider-Man Secret Rare collectible, right? Where does that fit in the landscape of things? Will the AF-15 surpass it? I'll say like AF-15 SR, will people eventually come back to the collectible because it was the first? There are these weird rules that we start to make.
I think that the collectibles will see the higher prices that they used to have as integrated things come into the platform. But as of right now, I think the comics, like we predicted a long time ago, are just safer because they have real world value already. Like,
Right.
you don't have to convince anybody why AF-15, the comic book, is a good thing to hold on to. Like, that's not a conversation that's ever going to happen. Nobody's like, explain to me why this is important. But, like, if you had to explain to somebody, or somebody was just like, should I buy a Todd? You'd have to explain to them for a couple minutes why Todd, the statue, is important.
Right.
So, like, a huge barrier of importance. And we learned that the past couple months, especially as we got Star Wars Comic 1, AF-15, Nyx, Ultimate Fallout 4 a long time ago, like stuff like that. If you look at the retention of value for Ultimate Fallout 4 versus almost anything on the entire platform, it's retained way more of its value. I mean, at its high of actual being sold, it was selling around 150. It reached like 170s, but like nobody was really buying those, so it went right back down after that. So let's say about 150. Ultimate Fallout 4 stays at about 40, like between 30 and 50. That means it only lost like 2/3 of its value.
Yeah.
Most things on the platform lost like double or triple that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's like 10x down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's indie stuff that's like 20, 30x down. Like,
Right.
so, like the reality is like we're starting to learn that the things that have physical representations in reality and are relevant, both of those two things together, which is AF-15, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Miles Morales, Ultimate Fallout 4, like stuff like that, is going to be much easier for people to convince themselves to spend money on because nobody has to convince them.
Now, speaking of spending money, I was joking around about this in the group chat, and I think it's worth bringing to the table here. I said, man, if I'm gonna buy an AF-15 and spend 700 gems on an AF-15, do I just buy 15 Fantastic Four 1 commons?
I would.
And we find ourselves, you said you would?
Yeah, I'd buy 15 Fantastic Four commons way before one.
Yeah, those are more fairer value, I think. Like right now, it's red hot, right? I would not recommend buying anything that's red hot. And then everybody on every Vive group and Twitter is talking about A15. I would not touch it right now.
Mm.
So
yeah, it's you start, and that's where I find myself kind of trying to, I guess I'll say, talk myself off the ledge in regards to the spending. What is that? Is that the Terminator on the right? So let me see what Fantastic Four is currently selling for, what that floor is right now. Man,
and for me, I would ask yourself, do you want to be the guy that has one AF-15 in your private collection? Or do you want to be the guy that has 35 Fantastic Four 1s to sell when VV goes mainstream?
Right. So I would have 30. Right. If I bought 15, I'd have 35.
Right. So do you want to be in a position of a salesman, or do you want to be in a position of a collector? And that's the most important thing you have to answer.
That's a great question. And I don't know if I have an answer to that.
Hard for me too. I don't know. Like, I wanted to sell my F-15 because the 1Xers got up to like 1K almost.
Yeah.
And I just have that one from drop. I was like, 1K for $20. I was just like, can I say that I know what I'm doing if I don't sell this right now? Like, but at the same time, I'm a collector. So I was like, oh, I'm going to make the wrong choice and hold on to it.
Yeah, and that's so right now the floor of Fantastic Four 1 is $47. It was as low as like 35.
Yep.
I think I grabbed one or two at 35 a while ago. So at 47, I don't know. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to use the web app to just navigate the market a little bit more, but
dude, forget it. Just get Spider-Man #1. It's like $39 floor, dude.
That is the scary. I think that's the scariest comic on the app right now because it's just there's so many things in its way now.
Two things could happen though. It could become the mainstay because nobody can afford an AF-15.
Yep.
It could, but I think what's going to happen is like if it becomes the mainstay, then ASM 129 or ASM 300 comes out, and I just think people will pivot to those things.
Yeah.
No, but Spider-Man is still comparable to better than ASM 300 though, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a 5 listing wall at $47 for Fantastic Four 1. And then there's a couple at 49, and then it looks like it starts to move a bunch. I have one listed at 55 because I'm like walking the line of like, do I buy an AF-15? And I'm like, I have some of these like thresholds posted where, okay, if the market pumps and then I catch it and I make whatever 20 on it, then that's fine. And I'll I'll sell it.
Man.
And that'll give me
Dude.
more of a reason to buy something else. But
Dude, Daredevil won $30. Ghost Rider first appearance like $15. Come on, dude.
so,
Hey,
the
when
go-
Ultimate
so
Fallout 4, it touched 28 for a second. I
Which
definitely
one?
bought like 5 or 10 more because I was just like,
Which one?
Miles,
Oh,
Ultimate Fallout
Miles.
4.
Yes, the
And
Miles.
same
So-
thing. And I bought about 5 or 10 more Daredevil ones because that one touched 30, like
Yep.
28, 30. And to
Yep.
me, those are better deals than a fucking $1,000 common.
So
Yeah.
wait, here's where it gets wild. So Nothmar, you're a Ghost Rider fan. If Ghost Rider's at $15, you can buy 46 of them. 46,
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
46 Ghost Rider commons instead of buying one AF-15. So I think the real question goes back to that conversation we had a while ago.
Yes.
What sort of return on investment are you looking for, or are you a collector and you just want that one to have?
Yes.
Because if you're looking for ROI, Sean, to your point, Ultimate Fallout 4 at these prices, kind of a slam dunk. The Fantastic Four 1, I mean, that's in the physical world, a Fantastic Four 1 on some months punches in the same weight class as an AF-15.
Yep.
So Fantastic Four 1's good. MC1, I think I'm hesitant with MC1 almost always because it's just not a mainstream comic. It is obscure, and I think consumers might look at it as just being an Archie comic, like just this fringe weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Ghost Rider, do you buy 46 Ghost Riders?
I have 66. So
do you really?
I have 66 copies.
And for me,
Dude.
If I was going to spend $900, I would honestly just buy all Nyx 3s. Like right now, like where my mind's at, and I'm looking at what they're doing in the MCU, which is a huge driver of speculation in the comic market, whether we like it or not now. It just is.
I mean, I would consider Avengers 4 also on top of Nyx 3 because there's like $9, and that's a key mega grail too.
That's
right?
a good point. Yeah.
Right. Avengers 4 it floats around $9. You can buy 150 Gambits if you're just an X-Men fan, which I don't even know if that's a bad move.
I don't
I think Gambit can go to $15 on any given day.
Yep.
I mean, I did buy 3 physical copies of Gambit when they dropped it, so I got motivated to buy more Gambits.
You're a savage. I love it. So I think that's
I have
the
pretty
world
awesome-
that we're in.
I have a pretty awesome raw Gambit collection. I have like every number 1 and every variant number 1 Gambit ever released. Like I have a ton of Gambit books.
See, that is the collector, dude. That is the collector.
It causes me problems for Eevee because it makes me make really hard choices I don't want to make. Like,
well, I think that knowing about those sorts of collections is important because it does. There are only 20,000 Gambits, right? And then if you look at how many commons there are, there really aren't that many compared to a lot of other books.
Yeah,
and when those collectors, when the Sean collectors show up and they want to buy a Gambit common, they're not going to buy one. They're going to buy
as many as they can until they're tapped out.
Right. So those are the things
I don't like hedge myself at all. And like a lot of collectors I know, when they want something, they spend like a scary amount of money on it. And then they do it again. And then they do it again. And then they do it 5 more times. And then they have like 10 copies of it. And their wife's like, Jesus Christ, what are you fucking insane? Like,
yeah,
that's how people like me act, whether people say so or not. Those are people that will come eventually. There's just not a lot of us right now.
Yes, it is very common at the comic book store I work part-time at to hear people say, when I ask them if they want a receipt, to hear them respond with, no, because my wife can't find out.
Yep.
And these are people who show up and spend crazy amount of money. They're spending, $150 a week on new releases.
I was spending $1,200 every month on new releases when I was buying comics at my height. Just on new releases, $1,200 a month.
Whoa!
I have a huge collection. And there's a lot of people like me. Like I'm in a couple groups. Not as much anymore. They don't really pop my feet anymore. So doing most VV stuff. But back when really is cool. I mean, like.
Wow, it's a lot. I would spend probably $200.
But anyways, there's lots of guys like me.
Hold on, we're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I couldn't do that anymore. That was when I was in college and I had a decent job at the time. So like I just had a lot of excess money and didn't have a lot of bills. But like now in reality, when I have bills and other stuff going on, I can't spend $1,200 on freaking paper, a month. And also speculation was at an all-time high when I was doing it. So like I could make money off of doing that. Couldn't do that right now. Like if you tried to speculate $1,200 into new comics right now, you're gonna have a shit show. Like so market is just different.
Even now compared. Yeah, now compared to a year ago, it's a different world. Now, before we head out, we've got 15 minutes left. I am interested in hearing what you guys think we're going to see moving forward as far as like IP is concerned. Like, what are you most looking forward to from a collector's standpoint? Do you want more comics? If so, which ones? Would you like to see more collectibles in certain subcultures that we haven't seen yet? Where are your heads at in that regard? Sean, what do you think?
I want them to get the rights to the comic books of anime. So the manga first prints that they released in like Shonen Jump and stuff. I'm hoping, because he's a smart guy and he knows about this stuff, and so a couple other people at the company too. I'm hoping that they're talking with actual big companies in Japan. They just localized in Japan. Naruto, not so much Naruto, but let's just go with things that are super relevant right now. Bleach, which is having a movie come out on Disney Plus officially, and Dragon Ball Z is owned by Disney, and there's lots of rumors floating around what that means. And there's a new movie coming out like any day now for DBZ, and a new season coming out. And they just localized in Japan, like I said. I'm almost positive they're going to start releasing Bleach and Dragon Ball Z stuff on the platform soon, because Disney has the rights to that stuff already.
Now, when you say localized, what do you mean by that? What does that mean?
It means like they have like on the app, you know how like ours is English and like everything's English? It'd be like they have their platform and it's in Japan or Japanese, and also they're doing separate advertising or separate marketing or separate just separate ideas, because like if you make a product in America, that American product's not going to sell well in China. That American product's not going to sell well in Japan. It's not going to sell well in Malaysia. You have to have somebody on your team to localize the content and localize the ideas so that they matter more in their culture. And like that also means you can't just release Spider-Man comics in Japan. That means you have to be releasing Goku comics in Japan, and for Americans to see it happening so that we can buy them too. So like they're working on that for sure. You knows that for sure. Like he's huge on localization from all the stuff I've watched, and everyone else on the team is too. And they know that they need interoperability and localization all over the entire world for this shit to work.
Now, the next question is there, what do you think is the biggest IP that we should keep an eye out for? Is it Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah, it's Dragon Ball and Pokemon. Nothing else really like has the global scale where you could go to any country and be like, do you know who Goku is? Or you can go to any country and be like, do you know what a Charizard is or a Pikachu? And damn near anybody besides in like a tribal village would know what those are.
Yeah, so my 6-year-old nephew was sitting at the dinner table at my parents' house during Sunday dinner and told us that his favorite decoration on his backpack is going to be Charizard and Squirtle. And I looked at my brother, and then I looked it up online on Wikipedia, and I looked at my brother and I was like, dude, when Pokemon came out, you were 8 years old, and now your son is 6 and is still obsessed over the same exact characters that you were obsessing over at around the same age. When it's almost funny to sort of like poke fun at Pokemon. I think a lot of mainstream audiences still do. But when you try to take stock of that sort of IP that's lasted as long as it has, it just shakes the world. And then what's even crazier is in the comic book store that I'm working at, we have a card shop attached to us. And guys who are like 45 years old come in, and it's not the fact that he's obsessed with Pokemon, just this anecdote speaks volumes. He comes in and he's opening up a pack of cards, and my buddy who's working with me goes, oh, what'd you buy? And he goes, oh, just some Pokemon cards. And his question was, oh, do you play? And his response was, no, I don't play anything. I just buy them once a week or whatever to see if I got anything that's worth anything. and then I just show, and then I just keep it moving. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute.
It's gambling.
100%. This is just scratchy lottery tickets. So it changes the shape of everything when that becomes the behavior that we see out of these pop culture sort of Goliaths.
But
Pokemon buyers are going to gamble hard on VV if it comes to VV or any platform, not even VV. Let's say it goes to Recur and we get fucked, or it goes to a new, like Pokemon throws down a ton of money and makes their own platform. It ain't going to matter who makes it. They're going to be number one in the NFT world when it happens. That's how big Pokemon is.
But isn't that the same too? What's going on now with VV, right? There's a lot of non-comic book collectors, etc., and they're just coming in because they're trying to hit the SRs or the URs and then make a killing on revenue and profit, right? So I think it's kind of similar. I guess it's just here it's just digital assets versus just a hard physical card, right? So.
And in video games, there's already precedent. There's loot boxes. Like there's already precedents for all this stuff where there's kids stealing their parents' credit cards and spending $900 on a Friday and then getting yelled at on a Saturday.
Oh, I do have one. I do have one different thought just to before we jump from Pokemons. For collectibles, because we said that the comic books is a stable market, but then collectibles is kind of a little bit more volatile. Do we think, because when I started getting upset with like what happened with me with Todd, I said, screw it, I'm gonna go back to my roots and buy like a lot of comic book stuff to make myself happy. So I bought a lot of statues, aka collectibles. So maybe that's what's collectibles are more geared for, the toy or the action figure market, right? Maybe those type of guys. I mean, we love it too because we're a comic book and it's natural, but we're still more inclined to invest in the comic books. But maybe the market that is more inclined towards the toys needs to be the one that jumps in to jumpstart that market.
And that's why I said they need to have social sharing and stuff for statues, because statue collectors inherently like to show off their statues. Yes. Whereas comic collectors, a lot of them don't care about showing off their comics almost at all. They just want to own them like stocks.
Not as much. It's a different market, right? Because we like reading more.
Yep.
We like talking about the stories. Collectors, I noticed I did when I started posting this, and I had a lot of people who collect statues too started responding about, oh, I got this action view of this one. So they were more into like displaying it and showing it. So it's a different market in itself. So maybe that's one market.
There could just be a single link on Instagram that took you to your collectible Marvel VV vault. That's all it would take, and you'd get a ton of new users for it. That's it. Yeah. That's all it would take.
That's my number. Before MCP, before everything, my number one ask, I want to be able to have a link tree in my Instagram, and when you click on it, there's another button that brings you to my VV vault so that you can see all of the stuff that I have. And I think, to be able to do that will move the needle in a really, really insane way, especially if the people have the ability to like explore it, where like you're inside the vault and then you go outside the vault and
personal message.
Silver Surfers fighting Galactus with Superman, and there's all this like really cool interactive stuff. And like, let's be real, Nothmar, you said it yourself, that there is a community of people that collect the statues for their offices. I didn't do it, but I follow Elite Comics on Instagram, and they posted a Gambit statue that was awesome. It's like him throwing the cards. And I think they wanted $800 for it.
So those are like more than likely they're the expensive sideshow statues.
Love sideshow statues.
Yep, those are the most expensive ones that are a couple $100 to over $1,000. People are like,
I've seen a Thanos one that's $5,000.
Yep,
and you look at it though, and you're like, yeah, I mean, obviously you can't charge less than several K for this thing. This is ridiculous. Somebody hand painted this thing like 20 times. Like,
so I think that's kind of the world that we're going to be getting into, but it's going to require VV to lay that groundwork. I really, as much as I love comics, I think I prefer collectibles on this app right now because I just genuinely love the vault experience. Like I like making my vault. Like there have been several different occasions where my wife and I have been sitting on the couch And she's looked at me and like, what are you doing? And I'm saying like, oh, I'm just moving these things around my vault. And nobody cares but me.
I foresee a future where, and like I am almost 100% on this. I foresee a future where people have their normal Instagram account or whatever Web3 makes popular as the next social media. I see for sure millions of people having in their headline complete Mighty set owner, complete Batman season 1 set owner, one of every single common comic on VV, even the super low mintings, and like it'll create these kind of like Club 33 for Disney. This stuff's gonna happen. Like I will bet anything on this. Like anybody that wants to make a bet on this shit, I will definitely throw money down on it because it's gonna go that way where people are gonna be like, this, and this describes who I am and what I spend money on, and you know more about me as a human being just from reading those 3 lines than you could learn from a conversation with me for an hour.
Yeah. I mean, like at some point, there's gonna be like whatever 30,000 NFTs in the platform, and then one guy is like, I'm the Silver Surfer NFT collector, and I have all 30 different Silver Surfer NFTs. They're all totally different, but not too many people have that full Silver Surfer collection, right? So he's the guy who can show off that he's got all of them, right? So I think down the line, that might
and it brings followers, which is the ultimate game for these people that shares. They want to create content that's followable and scales up, not down. And being the guy known as the ultimate Fallout 4 guy or the guy that has every single Batman statue is going to be such a small club that people will start to recognize those individuals for just those taglines.
Listen, one of my buddies goes out of his way, and I think it's awesome because it's his thing, and he has his subgroup that he's a part of. He specifically does Bomberman speed runs.
Oh, cool!
And there's a community online that that's why the internet is pretty cool. That of global people, and they've organized themselves, and they have standards and expectations, and they do these Bomberman speed runs, and they have rankings. And I think there are more communities like that, and remove Bomberman and just insert anything, right?
Yeah.
The more we understand that that's the world that we live in, I think the more VV is going to make sense to people who aren't already bought in.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think mine, because I didn't share mine yet. My number one ask at this point, I think from a collectible standpoint, is probably, and I don't know if this steps on DC's toes because of the battle statue term, but I would love a Hulk Wolverine battle statue.
Mm-hmm.
And I would I really, really want
like a versus statue or something.
And I really want 120 ASM 129 or Hulk 181 comic book world. I'd love to make it like MCP required, where you can only get it if you have a certain number of MCP. But I don't know.
If you're pointing a shotgun at Spider-Man or like Hulk fighting Wolverine or any number of things would be awesome.
There is a sideshow collectible Hulk versus Wolverine, and I've been hunting it, but it's so pricey. I'm kicking myself because like a couple years ago it started at 300. Now it's like 800 to 1,500 bucks. So I'm trying to look for a deal, but that is the one of the sideshow grails, the Hulk versus Wolverine.
Oh my god! Can you imagine if they got Todd's company or Sideshow to do statues for VV, and they got their mock artists to mock up real statues?
Yep. Somebody did mention that to them, that hey, are you guys are gonna be connecting with Sideshow? I think in one of the AMAs, and they said they were in talks. So
I mean, it benefits everybody. They'd be fools not to take their already made designs and then re-profit off of them again.
Like, I might be nerding out now, but like a Thor Silver Surfer Rainbow, insane, that would just be the coolest thing ever, right?
Oh man, that would be
especially if they have the comic on there and you can have it posterized in your vault with a statue in front of it. That would be huge. Every collector like me is going to want to own both those things.
Yep. Yeah.
Agreed. All right, well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. We are 1 hour in. Everybody at home, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I am Carmen. We have Sean and Nothmar, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out in the dojo. Take it easy, guys.
Yep. See you guys later.
See you.